little embarrassed about our pick tonight.
My notes, by the time Tom Selleck and Fiona Shaw are in an old-timey motor car, I lost my will to live. Moment of hesitation, and you pounce like a leopard! Because, man, there's no stakes here.
Welcome to So I Married a Film Critic, a discussion between a professional film critic and lecturer and me, his wife of 20 years, who just likes to watch movies for fun. I'm your co-host, Julia.
This is Barry the Film Critic. Hello, everyone.
And I'm a little embarrassed about our pick tonight.
Why would you be embarrassed about three men and a little lady? Listeners, if you've ever wondered, okay, so he's the film critic and she's the producer and the co-host, so that we're not co-host, we're doing this together. If you ever wondered, like, who has the power in this power couple, let me tell you how this came out, okay? She's like, so the daughter's asleep, so, like, what are we going to watch? Let's watch a movie. Any ideas? I'm like, yes, I have an excellent idea, Julia. This is the best idea I've had all week. So, Alien just turned 45 years old exactly, and in a couple weeks, Alien Romulus opens. So, like, how about, Joel's like, let's watch Alien together. We'll record an episode, and we'll have it come out the weekend the new Alien movie comes out. And she goes, I want to watch Three Men and a Little Lady. And before I can go, she, like, has the remote control, and she's like, do, 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 do. And, like, the Touchstone Pictures logo is on, and I'm like, all right, I don't know why you asked me, but, yeah.
You asked me.
I should have just said we're just watching Alien.
You really should have. Yeah.
I had a moment of hesitation, and you pounced like a leopard.
Okay, well, to be fair, we did Three Men and a Baby.
So we have to do the sequel?
And I have a lot of, like, good memories.
Is Steve Guttenberg watching this? If you are, hello, Steve Guttenberg. Does anybody want to hear us talk about Three Men and a Baby, Part 2, Three Men and a Little Lady? What a weird title, by the way.
I know. I don't know. I mean, did they really have to make a sequel?
Yes, they did. Because
They
the
did?
first film was the top grossing film of 1987. So, yes.
Well, there you
Although,
go.
I got to say, like, of the three, one of them didn't need the sequel. Do you know which one that is?
Selleck.
No, Selleck needed this movie.
Oh.
He really needed
Ted
it.
Danson.
Right, Ted Danson did not.
Cheers.
Cheers, exactly. Cheers Cheers was huge until it ended in 1993. But Selleck, he had a rough start with his film career because he couldn't do Indiana Jones, which I'm sure he still wakes up in the night screaming about.
He's probably going to be angry about that.
PTSD for his
forever.
every time he hears do, oh God. So after Three Men and a Baby happened, he had a couple movies after that didn't work out. And then Guttenberg was doing really well, but after Three Men and a Baby, he said goodbye to Police Academy. They tried to make Cocoon a franchise. That only lasted one sequel. So they really needed this movie, and Ted Danson's like, yeah, sure, I'll take a 5-minute break from Cheers. And you can tell because he's barely in this movie.
He's barely in it.
It's a cameo appearance. It really is. He kind of walks on and off. It's like, okay, he's off to go see, he's off to be Sam Malone. He's already got the shirt on,
Yeah.
Yeah. No disrespect, because they're all very charming. It's a very charming film. I'm not sure why we're talking about it, but let's talk about Three Men and a Little Lady.
Okay, well, our film opens 5 years after the first one.
I thought it was 6. 6 years later. 6 years later.
Okay, well, I don't think so. Because,
I think it's 6.
Because the little girl, Mary, is 6.
Are we really going to stick to that?
And the baby is like 1 at the end, so you do the math.
Well, come on.
Doesn't matter.
Well, I mean, in movie years, who knows? But I mean, 87 to 19, so it's only 3 years.
I'm talking about movie years.
Because I thought the movie established it's been 6 years that they've all been living together.
It doesn't matter. 5, 6
yes,
years.
Yes, it does. You just said it mattered. It's 6 years later.
Oh my God.
And the kid is miraculously, 9?
She's 6 years old.
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
She's old enough that she's a little lady. She's no longer an infant. They can't just do diaper jokes for another 90 minutes. Yeah.
And it opens up with Steve Guttenberg, doing more murals on the wall and, like, painting.
They're trying to capture what the first movie did, which is, it opened up with Gloria Estefan, and everything was sped up, and it's just like, this is how fun their life is. So now it's another montage, except it's an unknown doing the opening number, which is kind of like, oh, okay, Gloria Stefan's like, I'm not giving you that music for free. No, not for 3 Men and a Baby 2.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, so we have the little lady, Mary, and we have her mom, Sylvia, who's still an actress on Broadway. And we have our 3 men.
And let's not pretend we care about their names. It's Tom Selleck, it's Gutenberg, it's Danson, okay? If we're talking about Cheers, it's Sam Malone. Police Academy, it's Mahoney. Magnum PI, Thomas Magnum. But no, in this movie, it's the dudes. It's the 3 bros.
All right. So we have Tom Selleck, who's the architect.
Yes.
Who's clearly the stable one in this, threesome. I mean, he's the one making all the money. Because I think we talked about before, like, how the heck are they affording this massive place in Manhattan?
Yeah, and it definitely brings to mind a certain sitcom which came out the same year as 3 Men and a Baby, about 3 guys living together, one of which is the center. The other one is like trying to be... Was Dave Coulier trying to be a cartoonist, or was he a comedian? What was he in Full House?
He was a comedian.
He was a comedian. And then, respectfully, he's funnier in real life than he was in that show. And then John Stamos is it basically is the equivalent of Danson, because he's the ladies' man, rock star, but also like, an artist. Although everything, and I the one thorough joke that I like from first movie to the second is that it's obvious that Danson is the Joey Tribbiani. Like, he's handsome and he's confident, but he's a terrible actor. As you can tell from the roles that he gets, he's awful. It's, and it's...
Oh, he's a terrible actor. Not
Ted Danson.
Oh, but
the character is a terrible actor.
Okay.
He's constantly getting these crap roles because he's a
ham.
Exactly.
He's a ham.
Yeah.
Okay, so he's just a bad actor in the movie.
Yeah, I'm not saying Ted Danson is. I'm saying the character. Again, like, I don't want to, like, he's Jack, and no, like, let's call them by their actor names. It's fine. They're playing, basically caricatures of how we perceive them.
Mm-hmm.
Steve Guttenberg's always been the funny guy who gets the girl. Danson's always been the ladies' man.
Steve Guttenberg is a ladies' man?
You've never seen a Police Academy movie, clearly. He gets Kim Cattrall, Sharon Stone.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, Gutenberg's the man. Oh, yeah. No, he's like, when you can't get Bill Murray, you get Gutenberg.
Wow.
In fact, I think that's how he got the lead in Police Academy, now that I think about it. And by the way, I like Steve Guttenberg a lot. I do. I mean, no disrespect. I've always enjoyed his movies. But no, he's always, I mean, in this case, he is the comic relief. Danson, is... I don't know that the fact that he takes himself so seriously is what makes him so funny. And then, and then Selleck is the glue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so Mary, the little girl, it's like time for her to go to school now, So that's the thing that they're dealing with. And it's a really funny scene where they go to this private school meeting and they're all going to go. And I'm kind of thinking, like, if this were a real situation, wouldn't just Sylvia go and like pick one of, like, maybe she just picks one of the dads to go with her?
Yeah.
Instead, they're like, look at our crazy family.
It's always sitcom time.
Yeah.
Always, yeah.
Yeah. So, and then Ted Danson shows up in his Dracula costume.
Yeah.
And just ruins it for everybody. But, okay, so the big thing is the sexual tension between Sylvia and Selleck. Don't you think?
No, I don't feel like it's really well defined because Danson has got his paws all over her all the time.
Yeah, but
it's
that's
constantly
just,
flirty.
I know, but that's just him being
a creep.
Yeah. He doesn't really want her like that.
Right, but again, it's the routine. It's the fact that he is the biological father. Yeah. He's like trying to, as he even says,
because he does that, Selleck
stays
is
away.
Hands off.
Right, which I guess is respectable, but it's amazing. I mean, okay, so this has been going on for 6 years.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a little odd because it feels like 3 years, okay, but 6, it feels like there should have been some kind of intervention.
Right.
Don't you think?
Well, I think her mom thinks there should have been an intervention.
There's a scene between Sylvia, Sylvia is Nancy Travis talking to her mom, and if anything, it is a reminder. Okay, this because the opening credits tell you that this movie, the story was written by two women, but it was written by a dude, and you can tell because the movie needs that female perspective. It really does, because otherwise, because look, like the guy who wrote this screenplay, he wrote a movie called Hot to Trot. That's the one about the talking horse. The less said about that, the better. And he also wrote a movie for Tom Selleck that came afterwards called Her Alibi, which is a terrible film. So I like the fact that the story, at least the story, was conceived by two women. Like, okay, it's not just going to be about, how the three guys are competing for Sylvia. It's not,
right.
It's like
which would
all
be
the
terrible.
stupid jocular crap. Because the first one, I think, gets away with that fine. That the first 15, 20 minutes of it is just like, look at these wild bachelors partying, and then their approach with fatherhood, and it just shows how inept they are. This movie needs to have, Nancy Travis needs to have more to do in this than she does in the first film. And I think for the most part she does.
Yeah.
She's got some really good scenes with the guys, especially with like Danson and Selleck. Gutenberg, not so much, because I don't know. It's not even defined. It's not defined if he's like a successful cartoonist. I mean, he really is like Dave Coulier. They bring him into a scene. He's got some yucks, and then I thought he was actually a lot funnier in the prior movie, just because I felt like he was. It was funny how he was put upon so much, and this one I feel like he basically just reacts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So some of the funny things are that Sylvia is a terrible cook, and I do like this opening scene where she's, cooking breakfast for everyone, and they secretly like throw it away. They're like, wow, thanks, this is amazing. And they just throw her food away.
Folks, it's like an episode of Full House without the laugh track. That's what this movie feels like, top to bottom.
And the little girl...
And they pause, too. They pause. It's like, like this is where the would go.
And then the little girl, Mary, she has some dialogue where it's like, do you have a penis? And it's trying to be funny, but it's also trying to show that like, oh, she's growing up, and how is it going to be having this little girl grow up in a house with three dudes, three dads? So they're trying to establish that like, yeah, maybe Sylvia needs a more traditional situation.
Yeah, I do like how they handle that, because it's the moment where Nancy Travis takes the little girl away, and then she comes back, and now the little girl knows the deep dark secret of the penis world, and she kind of has this like, she looks at the guys with like an accusatory look. I'm like, oh, that's good. I like that. I don't, because it's funny, because like we don't know what she told her.
Yeah, we don't know.
And you could assume it's something terrible. which is accurate. So yeah, anything that's it's like it's an extension of the devil. Like that holds up.
Okay, now bring in Edward.
Yes, this is played by Christopher Cazenove, who, as I told you, I recognize the name and the voice immediately. I always forget what he looks like, but this guy was the king of books on tape. My first experience with the Phantom of the Opera wasn't Lon Chaney, it wasn't Michael Crawford, it was listening to a book on tape, Christopher Cazenove reading it, and I always remember his voice as the Phantom. He's, I even made a list of it, all the stuff that he's done on tape is amazing, this guy. A veteran theater actor, a lot of good...
No, he read the book, he didn't sing the...
No.
Andrew Lloyd Webber
No,
songs.
but I'm saying he is a legendary theater actor in real life, and also he had this gig doing all these books on tape that I just happen to have.
Oh, okay.
So like, I see him in the movie, like, oh man, like I'm a fan of this guy. He really is better than these three guys. Well done, Sylvia.
Well, okay, but I didn't know that Nancy Travis wasn't really British.
Really?
I mean, I didn't really think about it.
It just shows,
accent is great.
She's from Queens. Yeah, she is not. Oh, Maddie, what are we going to do, Maddie? No, that's hands off to you, Nancy Travis. You made a believer out of my wife, even though you've seen the movie that this show is based on. So I Married an Axe Murderer, which she's in.
That's true.
Yeah, she's done a lot of films where it sans the accent, but look, it's understandable. Three Men and a Baby was the first movie she ever did, so.
Okay, but she's she's talking to an actual British actor and holding her own.
I'm sure as soon as they said cut, I'm sure he was like... Yes,
well,
Chin Chin did it, yes.
to an untrained
Right-o.
ear like me.
Yeah, for a bunch of Yankees, we're like, oh man,
like,
she
oh,
sounds like
she's so good.
she even wants figgy pudding. My God. So convincing.
So he wants to marry her.
Yes.
And she,
They're co-stars.
Yeah.
They do theater together. And by the way, we briefly see the poster for one of the things that she's doing, because she's a Broadway. I mean, she's like a Bernadette Peters. She's constantly doing theater shows. But from the looks of what it is, it looks like some of the worst theater. Because like she's in like a Joan of Arc show.
With a wig.
Like Joan of Arc the musical. Like, who wants to see this crap? Yeah, I mean, it looks as bad as like Carrie the musical or like some of the biggest flops of Broadway. Yeah, but no, Sylvia is like, she's like this, and the movie wisely doesn't give us any clips of this.
Oh yeah, those are on the cutting room floor.
Yeah. I'd love to see that. Maybe more of that, less of the rapping, which we'll get to in a moment. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so Edward, he basically proposes to her, and because she's like, I want to have more babies. I want to like have a life with somebody, and he's like, I want to have all the babies with you, and let's get married. And so she's like, I'm gonna think about it. And so when her mom comes to visit from England, the mom is like, you should marry Edward and don't wait around for Peter, because Peter is not gonna express his feelings to you.
Peter is the Tom Selleck character.
Yes,
got it.
Tom Selleck.
So Jack is Ted Danson.
Yes.
Thank you. And who's
I don't know.
Goot? Oh, we don't even know his name.
Even know.
Oh, that's sad. I'm looking it up. That's just so sad.
Okay, but
I'm sorry,
the mom, the conversation with the mom tells us that Tom Selleck, it's like the mom kind of knows
Michael.
he's into her, but she's telling her daughter like, waiting for him is gonna just be heartbreak for you.
Yeah.
Go with Edward. He's a sure thing. And I'm like, all right. I don't know about that advice, because she doesn't seem like she's really in love with him.
The first half of this movie, it's like they looked at the thing in the original movie that worked, which is the ending. The whole third act of the movie, once you get past the crime subplot. But I'm watching this movie with you, and I'm going, man, you know what this movie needs? Cocaine. This movie really needs. I don't mean like I'm not saying I wanted to go all Scarface. Just a little sprinkle of booger sugar. That's all I want. Just a little bit of that, because man, there's no stakes here. There's no stakes. She's living in an apartment in New York. She's living the dream as an actress. She gets to have her foppish British boyfriend, and she gets to live with these three dudes. Her little girl is growing up in a completely protected environment. She has three guys who, even though they're dopes, but they adore the heck out of her. It's like, what are the stakes here? Oh, and then ultimately she wants independence. Totally get that. That makes sense. And again, it's like, it's comical that it's been this long that she's like, I feel a little, I want to have like meaningful conversations, and you want to play pinball and watch your football. And
no, she said she wants to get married.
Ted
Danson proposes to her.
Right, and that is one of my favorite moments in this whole movie, because man, it feels real.
Because he's like, all right, I will. It's my responsibility. I'm the bio dad.
And he does it in front of the other guys, and the camera. It's a nice moment where they cut back to Tom Selleck, who's clearly mortified by this. He's like, oh my gosh, like he's doing what I've been thinking of doing, and the movie is not playing this moment for laughs. It's like, oh, finally a scene that doesn't end with a we'll be right back. TGI Fridays. Like, finally the movie is
my
like
favorite night.
I mean, this movie could have been just this whole movie could have been like just a season of this. So no, like there's a few moments in this film that feel honest, and that's one of the things I love about the ending of the first one. Once you get past all the cocaine crap, then it's like it's sweet, and it's like, this is the movie we came to see.
Yeah.
So I feel like the beginning of this movie wants to be that, but again, it's like, this is a fantasy.
Yeah.
It's such a like, what are the stakes? Like,
well, and Michael, the Steve Guttenberg character, is the only one who has a girlfriend who shows up
in one scene.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so it's like, what are the other guys doing?
Well, Danson is just bombing one audition after another, and Selleck is somehow a successful architect, but at the same time a total super helicopter dad. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a fantasy. It totally is. But But it felt like there's more, like, it's not because we need the cocaine. It felt like there's stakes because it's the three guys. The fact that Sylvia is there, it's like, where's the tension?
Right.
It was scarier.
Everyone's involved.
It's scarier when it's when it's three guys, who've clearly all been to the Who in concert, and they know how to like throw a wild party where, they don't know how to change a diaper. That's like, okay, that's a horror film right there. But, when it's like everybody, when it's Full House, like, not for nothing, Full House had, I mean, what? Like, what's the most dramatic thing you think that ever happened on Full House?
Most dramatic?
Yeah, because we all know, all of us boomers, we all know the most dramatic episode of Saved by the Bell. We know nothing interesting ever happened on Step by Step. What is nothing.
They're all the same.
They're pretty much all the same. I mean, they go to Hawaii. I mean, like nothing.
The Beach Boys come and sing.
Right, and John Stamos got up on stage. Yeah, again, there's no tension there. Yeah. That's one of the things about Cheers. It's like, actually, there's no tension on Cheers either. Let's face it. Yeah.
Okay, so finally, Sylvia and Edward are gonna get married, and they're gonna go to England. They're gonna move to England, and now the tension starts.
I guess, because it's...
Well, now there's something to fight for.
Yeah, and Selleck and Nancy Travis actually have an actual fight.
Yes.
And it's a very reasonable fight. And yet, it's like, okay, in order for this to be resolved, he has to go to England to face her. Mm-hmm. And because there's this sequence where the guys try to go back to the way it was before Mary, which that's another part I really appreciate.
They're like, let's have a party.
Let's have a wild party, and they're just inept socially because being a father has ruined all of them.
As it does, I guess.
Yeah.
Huh? Were you having parties before?
College, yes, but no. I mean, you and I mean, we were married a while before we had kids, so no. I feel like no, we had lots of fun. Now we don't have any fun anymore, so those days are all gone. No more parties for me.
Okay, so I mean, Sylvia and Mary move away, and then the guys are like, we're not going to go to the wedding. Like, why would we do that? And then at one point, Gutenberg is like, I can tell Mary is miserable. Like, we have to go to the wedding. Like, we have to check on her. And so he seems like the only one who's really, I don't know, engaged.
Well, forgive me if this happens later in the movie. I wrote in my notes, there's two scenes in this film that really moved me. One is the scene where Danson proposes to Nancy Travis. We've already established that. But there's a scene where Selleck finally confides in Ted Danson. Is that when they're in England, or
that's way later.
It's a little later.
Yeah.
All right. Because beyond that, the movie is a sitcom from start to finish, and I gotta hand it to Leonard Nimoy, the director of the first movie. Even though that film, is very broad and it's very iconic, like it never felt like a sitcom. Mm-hmm. This movie feels like a sitcom. Always.
Well, when Selleck and Gutenberg go to England, this is when Ted Danson is like on location, and you can tell that he's maybe actually doing Cheers because he's not in like a lot of
large portion of the movie he's absent, and there's scenes where he literally phones it in.
Yes.
Yeah. And respectfully, because he's always funny and the character is always welcome. It's a similar thing that they did in the first movie though too. Remember, there was a large portion where it was just Gutenberg and Selleck. Ted Danson is out of town, but that became a really funny plot point. Here it feels like, you're Sam Maloning it. You can't be in the next 20 minutes of this movie.
Yeah. So when the film moves to England, it really becomes about how Mary is adjusting or not adjusting to life in England.
It becomes an ugly American farce is what it is. It's funny that Tom Selleck did this movie and Mr. Baseball right afterwards. Oh yeah, this movie's about how like isn't it annoying the way they have different words for everything? They drive on the wrong side of the road, and
I didn't feel that at all.
This movie has such contempt for England.
Okay.
It does.
No, it doesn't.
Yes, I disagree. It turns everybody into a sitcom. Of course, there's a wacky butler. They're all stiff and uptight, and they need the Americans to come and like show them how to like be alive and not so stuffy.
First of all, if you got in a rental car in England, you don't think you'd accidentally drive on the wrong side of the road?
I would not do that because I'm aware of the differences between the two countries, at least in that very like obvious sense. No, I would not do that because
Okay.
I don't live in a sitcom, unfortunately.
All right. Well, okay. I disagree. I don't think it's completely like a farce.
Of course it is. Yes, it is because the mother-in-law hates the guys, and and again, like everything is so stiff, and they don't want Mary to go to a boarding school, and
Okay, but the boarding school becomes the main plot point.
Yes, but also it's like how awful it is because they don't have like rock and roll and hot dogs there like we do in good old USA. No, it honestly.
No, you're wrong because the boarding school becomes a plot point because Edward had told Sylvia
Yes.
she won't go there for a few more years.
Mm-hmm.
And doesn't know that he has enrolled her
And
at 6.
Yes, and we meet the schoolmaster who is undersexed and completely repressed, but learns the true meaning in life is to really just like, you know what, I could either just be this repressed school mom, or I could just like sexually throw myself at Tom Selleck, which is like, it doesn't get more American than that, folks.
But Edward tricks her.
Yes.
He tells her he's interested in
Exactly.
you.
He's awful. Only the Americans can put this right. It's a total like.
Well, okay, but Tom Selleck.
This is like that Amanda Bynes movie, What a Girl Wants, where it's like, oh, good thing this American came around and got us to take our sticks out of our bums. Good thing. Yes. Chin chin chibio. It's like remember like how they're driving to the castle, and the car gets stuck in a field of sheep. Like, oh, this is so awful. Come on.
Okay, but like,
Don't you hate it the way they say vitamins? Oh, it's so terrible. Oh, if only I could be back in New York watching a baseball game. Oh.
okay, I feel like you're a little over the top with.
No, I'm not. For 3 men and a little lady? This is such a hurrah for up, like, U.S. movie. No, honestly, no.
USA.
Seriously.
You think? Okay, well.
Yes. No, I mean, it's all in the name of fun, obviously. But no, I mean, it is, again, it's like one of those movies where, you expect the butler by the end of the movie be like, party on, dude. That's what you see in the good old USA, isn't it?
Well, the butler.
Van Halen is rocking and rolling.
And the butler should have retired like 10 years ago.
The butler is a character actor who lived to be 90 years old. God bless that guy. He's a theater legend. There's a lot of legends in this movie who are slumming it for 3 men and a little lady. Let's talk about the director. You don't know who the director is, do you? So you remember who directed the first one, right?
Leonard Nimoy.
Leonard Nimoy. The sequel was directed by a guy named Emile Ardolino.
Okay.
He directed a movie that we have covered on this podcast.
Oh. What is it?
It's a very dramatic film with a pro-choice message.
I don't know.
It has Patrick Swayze in it.
Oh, Dirty Dancing.
Yes. He's the director of Dirty Dancing.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
And then 2 years after this movie, he made his biggest hit ever, which was Sister Act.
Oh.
Yeah.
So he's done some good stuff.
Sure he has. Yeah. Very successful filmmaker. Yeah. He unfortunately was not with us for very long, but yeah, this is his movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, all right, back to the plot for a quick second. Because basically, Selleck, he apologizes to Sylvia, right? But he doesn't say everything he wants to say. He just kind of is like, hey, I'm sorry, I was rude, and, we, like, left on bad terms. And then they kind of get interrupted. And so I think after that, he's more like, all right, I got to figure out this mystery because I'm hearing things from Mary about this boarding school. And then he goes to the boarding school and they have a tour. And then the headmistress is like, yeah, we take kids as young as 6 sometimes. So that's the clue. And then he confronts Edward, and Edward is like, "What are you talking about? She's not going there." But he does not like children.
Yes. He does not like children. He's one of those. It's the thing that's interesting. It's a little bit of subtext. It doesn't really come across, but he's basically the European version of Ted Danson's character. He's too caught up in his career to be a proper father. But he's also positioned to be a villain in this movie because, unlike Danson, who just fumbles over everything, this guy is being very deceptive.
Yes, and he tells Mary to shut up, when she. Because, her and the butler are playing this game, and then his papers get ruined, and he's like, "You ruin everything, just shut up and, get out of here. Do what you're told."
Well, she had it coming.
Oh, my God.
Did you find this child performance endearing?
Mary's?
It just didn't stay with me at all.
I mean, she's a cute kid.
It's hard because as a child actor, they always, whoever the kid is, whether it's someone really young or he's the star of Aragon, they always do these. No, I mean, I seriously feel bad because for every Macaulay Culkin or Jamie Lee Curtis, for every actor or actress who starts very young, Jodie Foster, and they build this long career, there's a lot who, it's like introducing and you never see them again, you never hear them again. And
was she in anything else?
I don't know. And it's a tough gig because look, when you're that young, I mean, not every actor is Haley Joel Osment, not every kid has that kind of ability and that kind of depth. And sometimes it's the material too. You're just being a cute kid actor. You're just, you're reacting, which is part of what acting is. But at the same time, if it sounds like you're just reciting lines verbatim from what the acting teacher told you. So all that to say, on the one hand, my heart does go out to child actors because it's a tough gig and it's a really cruel world for little kids to be in. But what else has she done? What do you got?
She's only been in 4 things. Okay. This was the biggest.
Okay.
Thunder in Paradise.
Starring Hulk Hogan. Sir Hulk Hogan. I just knighted him.
The video and the TV series.
Wow, that's a good gig.
And then she was in a movie called Keys, a TV movie.
Keys.
Yeah. But can you imagine being in this movie with these 3 grown men and you're you love all of them like a father? I mean, that's gotta be hard.
Well, the pressure is huge because for one thing, the title references her character and she's on the poster. So it's a lot. I'm sure it must have been very overwhelming.
Yeah. Okay, so
I regret all the bad things I've said about her performance, as limited as it seems to me.
I mean, I think it's fine. It's passable.
Sure.
And I think Sylvia and Selleck are the stars of this one.
Yeah, Selleck and Nancy Travis, no question. Yeah. Although it's funny, later on, I don't know if you remember this, Danson, post Cheers, he did a show, I think it was a sitcom called Becker, and his frequent co-star in that was Nancy Travis.
Oh.
Yeah. So they worked again subsequently.
So one of the things in the movie is that she tells, Nancy Travis tells Danson that his acting is okay, but he's never fooled her. And so, he tells the guys, he's like, okay, I'm on my way, and we don't know what he's going to do when he gets there, but they have a plan.
I don't want to jump that's the climax, but I want to talk about Pile 4th Academy.
Oh, okay.
Because this is my favorite part of the movie.
Okay.
Even the first time I ever saw this movie, this was my favorite because it's funny.
It's
and
funny.
It's not sitcom beats. It's actually this is feeling like a Tim Burton movie. They go to this place, all these kids are downcast and creepy, and it's Fiona Shaw, by the way, playing the headmistress. Fiona Shaw is, another one of those legendary actresses. I mean, a movie that we'll never talk about on this podcast because who, but she's in a movie called The Tree of Life. Maybe some of you have heard of this film.
I told you we could do that one.
No, you didn't. And there's a scene, it's never going to happen. So there's a scene in it where she's talking to Jessica Chastain, who's just recently lost her child, and it's so beautiful and heartbreaking. And then she's in this movie. In which she has a scene where her entrance line is it's a double entendre, it's a pun, but she's complimenting Tom Selleck on his mighty erection. But she steals this freaking movie. I think she honestly does. I think
Fiona
Shaw is crazy funny in this.
That.
It's a loony performance, and I think she's really funny in this.
Well, she says that scene before he goes to Pile Forth, where he's watching them erect a tent outside, and she goes, a mighty erection, I'm not sure.
Yeah, we know why she's saying it while she's talking to Tom Selleck. We get it.
Okay, but the scene in
where
question,
he sneaks in,
yeah,
and she throws herself at him. You know, which.
But before that, so he sneaks in by himself. He's trying to get the file, and then he hears her coming, so he hides in this wardrobe, and I just love it so much because she's in there in her, nightgown and stuff, and she's like, hearing something, and when she opens up the wardrobe, he's just sitting there, like
he doesn't know. He's like, I'm caught.
Yeah.
Sorry,
he's here. Like, sometimes a man just needs a place to think.
Right, and she says, "Oh, it's seduction time."
Yeah, and then in order to get out of, he's like, "I'm impotent." And she goes, "I find that so attractive in a man."
Challenge accepted.
Oh my gosh.
She's like that part of Roger Rabbit where Jessica Rabbit becomes this oversexed psycho character, like, "Oh man," and just throwing herself at anything. Like, that's what this part feels like.
Yeah, but it's so funny because he's like, "I'm impotent," and then she's like, "Take me." Like, I don't think you know what that means, but it's okay.
As a kid, this stuff always struck me as really funny. I look at it now; it makes me uncomfortable. It does.
Oh, it does?
Yeah, because it's broad sex farce and 3 Men and a Baby 2. Yeah.
Well,
because the first movie was all about the cocaine. Really weird how most of that movie is about cocaine and the baby and the guys, but it's mostly cocaine. Like, and this movie, like,
it gets is like her hot and bothered, and she's like sweating.
She jumps him. She throws herself at him. It's
funny.
Okay, all right.
Okay, well, I guess when I saw this, it came out in
1990. I mean, we were watching it on Disney Plus. I'm like, I gotta give them credit. I thought they would cut this part out. No, there it is.
I don't think I saw it when I was 10, but I can't imagine. I mean, I saw it when I was like a young teen.
Yeah, I was 13 when this came out, and I didn't want to see it. Home Alone had come out. I really didn't care about 3 Men and a Baby 2 at this point. I did see it on video, and I remember watching it a lot. In fact, I liked it more than the first one. And I think on our prior episode, where we spoke eloquently and poetically about 3 Men and a Baby, I think I did say that I liked this one better. I no longer feel that way. I don't. I realize the error of my ways. I'm sorry.
Retraction.
The original film by the wonderful Leonard Nimoy, superior and more cocaine.
Okay, so he sneaks out, like he escapes from Pile Forth, and his car breaks down, of course. So now he has to try to get back to the church because the wedding is going to start any minute.
Yes, and I'm sorry, and you were setting it up so well, and I'm sorry to interrupt you. You were setting up the whole thing about Ted Danson, how Ted Danson plays into the third act.
Yeah. So he arrives, and he has...
Gutenberg arrives too, because Gutenberg he's a distraction for the guy who's going to perform the marriage.
Yes, but your favorite scene where Danson talks to Selleck happens before all of this school stuff. Okay. And he tells him, "I'm your friend. I know you're in love with her. Like, you should tell her." And he's like, "What are you talking about? I'm not. What do you mean? Like, you're always like hugging her and kissing her." And he's like, I mean, Ted Danson's basically like...
He's like, "Yeah, I'm a jerk. That's what I do.
That's just me. I'm just a crazy weirdo, Mm-hmm. And so he gives him a good, like, bro talk. And then that's why Selleck is like, I'm gonna prove that Edward is lying.
Selleck proves that he's a good guy in this movie just because Danson admits that he can't get his paws off of Nancy Travis even though he doesn't love her. In the prior scene, he's been comically sexually assaulted by a school marm, and he's the one guy in this movie like, "Hey, I got boundaries. I'm a good guy because I'm not a total creep unlike these people I'm surrounded by." Yeah. Not to mention Steve Guttenberg, who's like trying to seduce these models with his hand puppet. "You do Johnny cool? oh my goodness, And then the little girl walks in and interrupts them like, this is a house of crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so it's the day of the wedding. And everybody's role, is to try to like keep Sylvia from marrying Edward.
Yes.
And so Gutenberg takes the priest on this like wild goose chase. They end up at a funeral. They end up in all these places. Selleck is stuck out on the road, and then the headmistress finds him. She's on her way to the wedding, and so she's like, I know a shortcut, which of course ends up not being a shortcut.
They wind up bonding. It's a little forced, because if the movie was more honest, she would be really kind of broken that Magnum PI doesn't want to marry her, which I think is what broke a lot of people in the 80s. But yeah, all the same, But you do have a bit of farce, which I like, which is where Steve Guttenberg has to distract the guy who's going to marry them. The guy who's the preacher, priest, thank you. He's played by Jonathan Lynn. This is the director of Clue and My Cousin Vinny and The Whole Nine Yards and one of the greatest films ever made, Nuns on the Run. Make sure you've seen that one, folks. Now there's a great comedy. So yeah, it's played by Jonathan Lynn. He's very fun. Like there's that scene where he takes them into the wrong chapel.
Yeah.
I like all that. I think that works really well. I mean, again, like I feel like this is just it's a movie about the Americans. Oh, so clever, those Americans mocking the English way.
Okay, but the pile forth headmistress, she kind of saves the day.
She does, but the movie is making fun of those kind of boarding schools. I feel like it's pretty one note.
I think it's making fun of the school, but not her necessarily.
But no, I agree, because like there's something. I mean, the fact that she is so unafraid of expressing her affections to Tom Selleck, to put it mildly. I mean, that's one of the reasons she's such an enjoyable character, because everybody else is like hiding their feelings and their secrets, and she's
like, here I am.
But the pile forth scenes, like I wish the movie had taken more time to be there, because I just feel like the comic material is there, whereas the rest of the movie is a sitcom.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So since her car breaks down, they have to ride. What are they riding?
A motorbike. With a sidecar.
Yes.
Got the goggles on, and say, okay, let's just chitty chitty bang bang this movie.
That's Selleck's like Indiana Jones,
Oh, you think he was like, I didn't get all I need is a fedora. Can I wear a fedora? No, we'll get sued.
They're like, you can wear the goggles.
It's just as cool, Tom. We promise. We'll put it on the poster. We will.
Yeah. That was his chance to do a little Indiana Jones.
Well, on the one, he did a movie called High Road to China and Lassiter. Those are like his B movie Indiana Joneses. And he did an episode of Magnum PI where he addresses that, where he actually gets to wear the hat and the fedora. And, everybody saw, they're like, oh yeah, he probably would have been a pretty good one. Very different from Harrison Ford, but a good. Yeah. And look, like, let's be fair about this. He had the role first. Like Harrison Ford was a last minute, like we got to find somebody, because they lost Selleck because was it CBS? I can't remember what network Magnum was on. I think it was CBS. CBS is like, like you sign a contract with us, Magnum is gonna go the distance. So sorry, you don't have that little window to make your little Spielberg movie. Aww. And then I guess he's like sitting watching Indiana Jones in a movie theater going, oh,
that could have been me.
Yeah, that's gotta suck.
Yeah.
No, but I do like pointing out that not only was it his role first, he probably would have been a great Indiana Jones. Seriously, he really would have. I mean, we got to give that to him, because Ford made it iconic, and Ford is brilliant in that role and terrific, but it belonged to Tom Selleck first.
Okay. Yeah. All right, so Sylvia and Edward are getting married, and they're like, hey, we have a replacement priest. So we have this new character who shows up that we've never seen before, and Sylvia walks down the aisle, and it turns into a farce of a wedding.
The whole movie's a farce, so yeah, the wedding becomes a farce. It's all wackiness.
Yeah, all wackiness. And so what we find out is that it is Ted Danson in makeup, basically trying to like stall.
Did it fool you the first time you saw it?
I mean, probably.
It did me too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It probably did. I just
don't
remember.
It did, because it's such a crazy thing, that he would do that. It's crazy that they would put Ted Danson in what looks like the makeup that Keir Dullea wore in the last scene of 2001. It's like this wizened old man makeup. And Danson, to his credit, is doing this foppish British accent, which everyone else in the movie is doing. So it's like, clearly they pulled another character actor. No, and so he pulls it off, and it's Ted Danson. He's like, I fooled you. Like, wow, okay. And the Academy Award goes to...
Okay, I do think it's a little bit crazy that she marries Edward, and then Peter shows up, and he's like, he's lying. He's going to send Mary to, Palforth Academy next year. And then all of a sudden...
Christopher Cazenove?
No, but okay, so then he yells at Mary, because she's like, what a crock, And then Nancy Travis is just like, I can't believe this. I'm out of here, and she tells Peter, you don't have to do anything anymore. I'm not going to stay with Edward. We're going to come back. You can see Mary. And he's like, no, I want to be with you. And so then he gives this whole, I love you speech, which I think is really sweet. Mm-hmm. The whole thing is really sweet.
Yeah.
And then it's like, did she just forget she married Edward? She kind of switches pretty fast.
Yeah, it's all very convenient. I've never liked these kind of endings where it's this big confrontation, the right thing has to be said, and it's just very okay, I'm definitely not going to marry the bad guy anymore. Mm-hmm. I'm no longer going to give him a voice. You and I have been to a lot of weddings. The most dramatic thing, I remember a wedding where one of the bridesmaids passed out because it was so hot. She fainted. Yeah. I remember that very well. And there was also a wedding, I think we mentioned this in a prior episode, so I'll be very quick about it, but there was a wedding you were at where you basically climbed the ranks because they needed you, they needed a flower girl. You were that.
No, it was something happened. There was a falling out with the maid of honor, and then it was will you be the maid of honor? And I was okay.
Yeah, you went from being a featured extra to being in the supporting cast to someone very nice girl we have never seen again.
Yeah, I didn't really know her.
You're in a wedding album in this big fat glossy wedding album in Colorado, and there's people looking at it
who's that girl? And she's like, it's a long story.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
we've been we've seen fairly dramatic, interesting things happen at weddings, and I've been in weddings where it's it was a last minute thing of we got to write the speech. You got to help me with this, Barry. So I'm in a writer's room. Okay, let's come up with stuff.
Writer's room.
That's what it was like.
Wedding.
Yeah, that's what it was like. Yeah, he was about to get married and he needed to come up with his big speech. So I'm let's come. No, I've been there, but never had haha, you're not really married. Oh.
Yeah. So, Sylvia
and we hate you. Leave. Go. Yeah.
Yeah. Sylvia and Peter kiss, and then and Edward's have you forgotten we're married?
Yeah.
And then Ted Danson is can't fool you, and he just takes off his mask, and it's very dramatic. And then the real priest shows up and marries Sylvia and Peter.
The film plays. The film rather begins to.
So they
conclude.
get married.
Yeah,
and it's all happy.
Yeah. And then a certain song plays on the soundtrack, and I'm going, "That's why you wanted to watch this movie. That's the only reason you just wanted to hear that freaking song by Boy
Meets Girl."
Mm-hmm. And we looked it up. What else have they done? This is a little bit of interesting history. They did some of the biggest...
Well, you didn't say it's Waiting for a Star to Fall.
Waiting for a Star to Fall, which is on the radio all the time. Turn it on FM, old school. It's on right now somewhere. And they also did 2 of Whitney Houston's biggest hits. They were...
I Want to Dance with Somebody.
Yeah.
And what was the other one?
I don't know.
Oh.
Didn't we almost have it all? That one?
No, it was 2 really...
Yeah, really
songs.
Big, but number 1 hits.
Yeah,
giant hits. They did a hit song for Dolly Parton. I mean, they were a real power couple, and then they split. But they realized hey, we
are awesome songwriters.
Yeah, so they remain together, and they're still a creative force. Yeah, which is very admirable.
Yeah.
I think this is the whole reason why you wanted to watch the movie, because you just wanted to hear that
I know.
song.
I probably should have just YouTubed the song.
You could have just watched the video. We could have watched Alien.
I know.
I'm still mourning. This is from my notes, listeners. And
how will I know? And I Want to Dance with
And
Somebody.
two humongous hits there that's responsible for that. So, I wrote in my notes, by the time Tom Selleck and Fiona Shaw are in an old-timey motor car, I lost my will to live. Those are my notes from watching the movie the other night. So I don't love this movie anymore. As a kid, I did prefer it over the original because I just thought, I'm here for the scene where, again, it's soundtrack. It's, the scene where Daddy's Girl is playing and they're in the swimming pool and the whole montage. Like that's the whole reason I always want to watch the original movie because that's sweet and it's the third act of the movie. Now I'm like, no, I can deal with the cocaine. I'm okay with the cocaine plot. I'm okay with the dirty cops and the hiding the cocaine in the diaper bag. I'm okay with that now. I think as a kid, I'm like, this is a little skeevy for a movie that's supposedly like a family comedy. Yeah. And now they did this sequel that really wanted like, no, forget about the
crime.
Forget about the white lines and the killing substance of the 1980s. No. This is going to be a sweet, cute family film. It's a Full House episode stretched into 2 hours.
Okay, but it's about Sylvia finding love.
It took her 6 years of living in the same guy's apartment to
I
figure out, like, oh my, no, stupid. There wasn't one night that she had alone, like Gutenberg is out at Comic-Con and Danson is at,
on set somewhere.
Yeah, doing some awful movie and she's not like alone with Selleck after like the first year. They're sharing popcorn together.
Okay. We didn't talk about how he like runs lines with her.
Right.
That's
a good scene too. Right, exactly. Yeah, that's a really good scene. There's a lot of good one-on-one scenes when it's all in the same room. It's like, okay, like we got to give this one little line to Gutenberg because he's here. Danson we got for 5 more minutes before he's got to catch that bus to go to see Cheers. So like we got to give Danson like a few. It feels like they're kind of divvying out the requirements of the plot. There's only a few moments where it feels like they're kind of bouncing off each other, which is why I still like the first one better. There's a scene in this where they're playing pool and they're talking about Mary being gone and Sylvia being gone. It's one of the few moments where it's like, this is what I liked about the first one because it's 3 guys and it's a contrivance, but there's an undeniable chemistry with these actors. You get that in this, but there's just not enough of that. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying it has to be 3 guys all the time.
What would you change?
I would make the first part of the movie much shorter. The first act would go by fast.
So you want
the whole thing about
farce.
Mary going to England and marrying Christopher Cazenove, that would happen within 15 minutes. It wouldn't be all... did you notice that we skipped over the rapping scene?
Yeah.
We haven't talked about that.
Well, I mean,
For those of you who know about the history of hip-hop, I want to note that Vanilla Ice and 3 Men and a Little Lady happened in the same year. So... if you want to talk about how white rap really poisons the hip hop legacy, I want to say it started in 1990.
Wow.
So you got not only Vanilla Ice, but you have 3 actors dressed like Flava Flav performing for Little Mary, and it's so embarrassing. It's so embarrassing. It's just as embarrassing as those Beach Boys concerts in Full House. Oh man, it's so oh man, painful.
It is.
I thought it was hilarious when I was 13.
Okay.
Not so much anymore.
How many stars?
2.
Okay.
You? 3.5?
I give it 2.5.
2.5.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, because there's still a lot about it that I like. There's still a lot of good moments, but yeah,
it's likable, it's passable, it's cute, but yeah, I mean, I just feel like it's weird because they really get rid of a lot of it's like we're not gonna just dirty it up with all these subplots. It's a very basic story, but in doing so, I think they made a really dull movie that just kind of it's happy to spin its wheels. And no, I need a story. There's just not much of a story here.
All right. Will you have any more final thoughts?
Third film? Do we need to,
Oh, does there need to be 3 men and a
what's the title?
Young lady?
No, she's not young lady anymore.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
So, I mean, no, she's Nancy Travis's age when she did it.
Like, well, then what? 3 grandpas?
Yeah, so it's like, what, she's...
and a divorcee?
All right, so she's gonna marry a bad soap opera actor, and the three guys try to talk her out of it, or they try to prepare, or and not only that, but Mary has a child out of wedlock, so she
they have to do it all over again.
Exactly.
As
so
grandpas.
As grandpas, they gotta help her with the baby, and they also gotta help her make it right with the bad soap opera actor.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would see that. Is Nancy Travis in it, or
she's
is
dead.
she? Oh, she's dead.
Yeah, she's dead.
I think that's. I was gonna say that. I think she's gone, and Tom Selleck is grieving the loss
There you go.
of the love of his life.
There you are.
And
Because it all comes back to Mary.
And becoming a grandpa gives
Yes.
him like a new lease on life, kind of a thing.
Or better yet,
What?
she ditches Jack to go back to be with Christopher Cazenove.
No.
Yeah.
No. It
So
needs
then,
to
like,
be about the
so
kids.
they bring her in at the ending for the wedding, and she's with Christopher Cazenove. It's like, I see the best man did win.
That would be like.
And then meanwhile, Fiona Shaw's there too, and she's like, I saw a broom closet back there, if you know what I mean. I'll meet you there in 5 minutes.
He's like, I'm still impotent.
Love those R-rated jokes in a PG family movie.
Oh, it's so funny.
Yeah,
Right.
I don't love this movie anymore. I don't. It's cute, but I feel like, the original has more substance.
Okay. All right. Well, I think we did it.
Yeah, so for fans of Ridley Scott's Alien, apologies.
Sorry. All right. Well, that concludes our discussion of Three Men and a Little Lady.